I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Stupid.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Friday. We got a show. We're gonna have some stuff. We are gonna talk about some important stuff, including the train derailment. There's new stuff, including a feisty town hall. Where residents of East Palestine, Ohio, got to, unload. Let's talk about that. That's a really interesting story. We also are going to show some video of Nikki Haley at CPAC. Ooh, CPAC. Oh, fun. And then before we do so, we're going to talk about how Florida is trying to eliminate the First Amendment for anyone that happens to be critical of Ron DeSantis. Again, this is not really a shocker, but nonetheless, it really should be. It should be a shocker. All right, so with that said, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. With that, why don't we, why don't we just dive right in? We'll start out with Jim Jordan. And by the way, I did not get a chance to update my my lower thirds. So, oh yeah, yes, I did actually. Oh man, it's one of those days, isn't it? Oh yeah. Oh great. Okay, so I did. Hey, lovely. All right, let's dive into it. Conservatives have been giddy over the trio of so-called FBI whistleblowers that recently testified before the House Weaponization Committee. Yes, they're trying to find evidence that the government has been weaponized against conservatives, unfairly targeting conservatives, politicians, even the former president, with witch hunt investigations to try to take them down by any means that they're able to do so. You know, the famously leftist FBI. Yeah, I know. Really. Look, if there was such a thing that was that was happening, obviously that would be a huge deal, regardless of whatever administration be, taking part in going after their political opponents with sham investigations, witch hunts, etc. Now, with that said, the reason that I'm skeptical of this one, there are many different reasons why I'm skeptical of this one, including those who are actually, doing the investigations, people like Jim Jordan, who has his own issues. But hey, some of the details coming out about these alleged whistleblowers, you know, who these people like Jim Jordan and other Republicans in this weaponization committee are, well, let's just say their credibility is in question. Let's just say that. Now, let me give you some details. Now, this is from reporting both from the New York Times as well as Rolling Stone, and even a Republican source and Democratic source. So, all right. Now, apparently, this is from the New York Times first. The first three witnesses to testify privately before the new Republican-led House committee investigating the weaponization of the federal government have actually offered little firsthand knowledge of any wrongdoing or violation of the law, or that there's any sort of deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump and Republicans. That is likely because anything that you could consider to be the deep state would have been right-wing. Okay, but anyway. Now, according to Democrats in the panel who've listened to their accounts, this is from Luke Broadwater and Adam Goldman writing over at the New York Times. Now, they continue by saying, instead, the trio appears to be a group of aggrieved former FBI officials who have trafficked in right-wing conspiracy theories. You know, because, of course.
Jewish space lasers.
No, not that one. But there are some conspiracies that they trafficked in, including about January 6th, the attack at the Capitol. And, by the way, they had also received financial support from a top ally of former President Donald J. Trump. To which I say,
My.
oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, what a surprise.
Can't let that happen.
Okay. So now, the roster of witnesses whose interviews and statements are detailed in a 316-page report compiled by Democrats that was obtained by the New York Times suggests that Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, the chairman of the panel, has relied on people so far who don't even meet the definition of a whistleblower and have engaged in partisan conduct that calls into question their credibility.
Really?
Yeah. So let me let's see. Continue to read here. This also raises questions about whether Republicans who have said that investigating the Biden administration is a top goal will be able to deliver on their ambitious plans to uncover misdeeds at the highest levels. Now, who are these three aggrieved former FBI agents? Well, one of them is George Hill, a retired FBI supervisory intelligence analyst from the Bureau's Boston field office. Stephen Friend, arguably not our friend, former special agent, that was terrible, who worked in the Daytona Beach office, and Garrett O'Boyle, a special agent from the field office in Wichita, Kansas, who has been suspended. So those three have promoted different conspiracy theories. Hill had wrote on Twitter that the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was a setup. Yes, definitely a unbiased source there. O'Boyle and Friend have admitted to receiving financial aid from none other than Kash Patel, a former aide to Representative Devin Nunes, who now is chief of Truth Social, for as long as that continues to exist.
Truth Central.
They're on wonderful financial ground. In fact, now is the best time to invest in Truth Social. Let me tell you, the best time, the greatest time. There's never been a better time. Please give us your money. I mean, it again, absolute disaster. And not only that, but yes, Devin Nunes is also a Trump associate who was testified in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. The Democratic report includes excerpts from depositions and evidence of conspiratorial social media posts. So it also details the ties between Mr. Trump's inner circle and the witnesses. For instance, Mr. Patel found Mr. Friend his next job, working as a fellow on domestic intelligence and security services with the Center for Renewing America, run by Russ Vought. That center is largely funded by the Conservative Partnership Institute, which is run by Mark Meadows, Mr. Trump's former chief of staff and former Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina. Huh. Oh, look at, I mean, I feel like I need to have like the Glenn Beck style whiteboard to draw these different lines. Like, if anything, it almost feels like I'm talking about a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Again, you have old documents, you have evidence, depositions that are done under oath. So, I mean, there it is. Gee, I wonder if their words can be trusted, these so-called whistleblowers. I would say no. Not at all. Not at all. Now, that said, do I trust the FBI? Also, no. Look, and by the way, the reason that I don't trust the FBI is because of people like these guys who used to work in the FBI. And I'm talking massive right-wingers who apparently were engaged in conspiratorial thinking. Look, the current FBI director is Christopher Wray, who was a Donald Trump appointee and massive right-winger. James Comey, also conservative, massive right-winger. And look, I mean, that's why I don't trust the FBI, because they're full of right-wingers. And so, look, that said, am I saying that that people with certain political leanings can't put aside their biases and effectively do their job? No, I think that's perfectly possible. Of course, right? You can have left wingers and right wingers working together, in not in politics, or anything political, but like just doing their jobs every day in, day in, day out. They do their job, and their political beliefs don't really factor into a lot of these things. Now, sometimes they do. In these cases, especially. I think, though, the majority of people are able to put aside their biases and put their, and not put politics over everything. And now, in this case, however, you have these three people who did choose their personal politics, and they got handily rewarded for doing so by all this conservative right-wing money. Now, that said, Hill, getting back to him, he had already admitted that he had little or no firsthand knowledge of any alleged deep state scandals. Because of course. So look, things are not going well for the Weaponization Committee. I mean, that's not a surprise at all to me, and it shouldn't be a surprise at all to you. We kind of knew this was going to happen. And that's, by the way, not for lack of trying. I mean, look, people like Jim Jordan, and I keep going back to him because he's the head of the committee, he has claimed that he had heard from dozens and dozens of potential whistleblowers about the political nature of the Justice Department. Oh, really? Well, yeah, you're not going to be shocked to what I'm going to say next, but that's after I talk about Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, who apparently has been covering the expenses of these alleged whistleblowers. Yet, so far, Republicans have brought only 3 of them to Capitol Hill for any sort of questioning under oath, and no others have yet been scheduled. What happened to the dozens and dozens? That would be 2 dozen. Where are they? Are you not? I mean, are you just lying about that? Is that what's going on, Jim Jordan? Oh, Jim Jordan lying? No, of course not. Well, that would never happen. Except that is most likely the case. Look, one Democrat in the committee, and I just love this quote here. He has described the situation as a dumpster fire. Okay, you might say, Democrat. All right, well, there's also a Republican that's on the committee. Guess what he called it? Amateur hour. That same GOP source, by the way, also claimed, this is a great quote. Airing this stuff on live television would make us, the Republican Party, look like morons. To which I say, yes! Because that's what it is. Again, it's moronic. There's never any there. Okay? It's garbage. It's garbage. Now, this garbage, unfortunately, there is a point to having this garbage. Look, this is, of course, we all pretty much predicted that this was going to be nothing more than Benghazi 2.0. Okay. Along with the Hunter Biden's laptop and all the nonsense, scandals involving that. Look, the thing is, they're not doing this so they can nail Biden. Now you might think, well, no, wait a minute. No, that's their number one priority. Get Biden and get the FBI. No. What this is, because they know the end result is that nothing is going to happen. No recent modern president, not even Donald Trump, had been removed for the stuff that he engaged in. Okay? So, no, they know that these investigations are just not, they're not going to amount to anything. And that's the point. This provides a distraction for Republican voters, so that these people in office will not have to do anything. Are any of these investigations? Is this involved with any of the campaign promises that Republicans made in the midterms in order to retake the House? I guess some of them, yeah. Oh, we're gonna go after Biden. We're gonna go after the laptop. But Republican voters, is this actually helping you deal with inflation? Is this bringing down the cost of food and fuel? Is this making your life in any way materially better? Is this bringing down the insane costs of housing and healthcare? No. And the reason, of course, is that the Republicans will never do anything that will impact the profits of the donors. And that's it. So what they're doing is distracting you with BS investigations that will lead to nothing. I'm very, very skeptical of any investigation, by the way, from pretty much any side at this point. Because look, Democrats have done investigations that led to nothing. Now, of course, there was a crucial difference there. Democrats did actually uncover crimes from the Trump administration. And then what happened? Nothing. Because at the end of the day, people who are powerful and wealthy never get held accountable, no matter what they do. Donald Trump was right. He could go and shoot somebody in Fifth Avenue, and he would never get in trouble for it. That's the unfortunate truth of this country. And so knowing this, then no one's ever going to be held accountable for anything. Why not do theater so it distracts people so that you also don't have to do anything substantial for the voters? It is all just theater while corporations and the wealthy continue to rob us. All right. Let's go to Florida. Nothing was done with Matt Gaetz. Also, true. Anywhere but Florida. Sorry, we gotta talk about it. The state of Florida continues its descent into fascism with a new bill that would actually violate the First Amendment, specifically the freedom of the press. So now, let's go to Republican Senator Jason Broder, who has introduced a bill requiring that bloggers, yes, he's targeting bloggers, that just happen to write about Governor Ron DeSantis, his cabinet, or state legislators to register with the state. If they do not, they will be fined by the government until they register with the state authority. So, Florida, don't have to register, when you have a gun, but if you have a blog that may be critical of Ron DeSantis or any members of his cabinet or administration or any Florida Republican officials, you are automatically in very, very dangerous in the eyes of the DeSantis administration. We must crack down and we must register you. Wow. All right, so now more details, of course. Again, it would require them also to disclose if anybody happens to be paying them for their posts about certain elected officials and how much they are getting paid for said posts. Again, note certain elected officials. Gee, I wonder which officials. Now, to the penalties if you do not register, which would result in a fine of $25 a day. And the penalty would be capped at $2,500 per post, according to NBC affiliate WFLA of Tampa. The bill says the blogger's reports to the state must include the individual or entity that compensated the blogger for this blog post and the amount of compensation received from the individual or entity, and defines a blog as a website or web page that hosts any blogger and is frequently updated with opinion, commentary, or business content. Again, literally taking aim at free speech. Amazing. Now, notably, the term blog does not include the website of a newspaper or other similar publication. So, look, this is wildly unconstitutional. I think it's, glaringly obvious that this would never pass constitutional muster. How could they not know that? Well, they do know that. They do know that, but they do not care. This is all an effort to shut down any critical media of Ron DeSantis or any Republican official. I do not believe that it would ever be applied to, anyone who is critical of Democrats. No, of course not. And I'll give you more details, by the way, of the irony of this entire situation. But let's get to Broder, who talked to the website Florida Politics. And here's a reasoning. He said, quote, "Paid bloggers are lobbyists who write instead of talk. They both are professional electioneers. If lobbyists have to register and report, why shouldn't paid bloggers?" It's called freedom of the press. They're not the same as lobbyists. You guys literally out there comparing people who write opinion pieces in blogs to corporate lobbyists. That is insane. Ridiculous. No, look, again, the aim is very simple: to shut down independent media voices who are not, by the way, corporate media, And therefore, of course, these independent journalists, independent bloggers, commentators, whatever, they have to be harder to control than mainstream press, who are very, very concerned about access, by the way. And look, this is also, by the way, part of the DeSantis push to expand the definition of libel and to curtail protections against mainstream press and other outlets who happen to be critical of Ron DeSantis. So now let's get to more of Brodeur and exactly the reasons that he's apparently going so hard after blogs. Turns out there's a little bit of a history. Last fall, while facing a difficult re-election campaign in an increasingly Democratic area of Central Florida, Brodeur, whose time in office has been embroiled in scandal, had actually turned to attacking the Orlando Sentinel as a means to fundraise. And this is after reporting from the Orlando Sentinel, as well as numerous other smaller publications, including Substacks and blogs, that have talked about the fact that he was involved in a scheme, allegedly, to funnel illegal campaign contributions to his campaign. Oops. Now, people that were connected with this ghost candidate scheme to help his campaign ended up getting sentenced. One of them included a Seminole County GOP chairman. So, I mean, this is actually pretty big news, right? Now, according to other reports, Brodeur was also involved in a bad economic development deal. Well, bad for who? Well, you'll see. Now, there's a company that he co-founded with another state lawmaker. And in this deal, they took a multi-million-dollar grant from one of the poorest counties in Florida. So they're, taking this grant for a company. The only issue is the company didn't exist at the time they applied for the grant. Okay, so it didn't exist at the time, but they eventually formed the company, right? And then the company subsequently went out of business. Now, that deal actually ended up sparking 2 criminal investigations, but led to no charges. It also led to a damning grand jury report, several critical audits, and years of litigation, some of which might still be ongoing. And at the end of the day, Brodeur allegedly pocketed at least $60,000 in cash right into his pocket. Now, a lot of this stuff was covered by smaller blogs, publications, Substack, but also in places like the Tampa Bay Times and, yes, the Orlando Sentinel. So I think it's pretty obvious why this person seems to be targeting independent journalists. Yeah, they have a history of finding out his dirty laundry and getting him in trouble. He don't like that. He don't like that at all. Now, here's the irony, right? Again, this guy's a Republican, and Ron DeSantis has also, been targeting the press, going after the press in Florida. And so they're kind of on the same side. Now, or actually they are on the same side. And by the way, when asked about this, his office refused to comment on whether or not he supported this piece of legislation. Interesting. But again, the irony here. Fox News and Murdoch-owned media entities are, that was a weird Freudian slip, we're pushing DeSantis as a 2024 nominee. They still are, right? So I've noticed that. We've all noticed that. Okay. But what I didn't know about that is that DeSantis is also being heavily promoted by a small set of GOP bloggers. Oh, interesting. According to the Daily Beast, these bloggers are the ones that DeSantis has used to break stories, shape narratives, and get out his personal message. Now, those websites include the Florida Standard, the Floridian, and the Florida Voice. All entities with little or no long-term involvement in covering Florida government and elections, many of them just recently materializing in recent years, coinciding with the rise of Ron DeSantis in Florida. Now, the reason that this is ironic, again, this rule, would it not target them as well? I mean, of course, they are bloggers and they're likely being paid by somebody. Who are they being paid by to blog in favor of DeSantis? Will we ever know? Will they ever pass this law? And if that's the case, how would they enforce it? How could they enforce it? And to whom would they enforce it on? Knowing Florida, I would assume that these websites, these blogs, I should say, will likely ignore them, these outlets. They'll be excluded from the rules. But that's just my speculation on that. As is my speculation that I believe that Ron DeSantis is an authoritarian. I did not believe him or his administration and Republicans in Florida believe in the First Amendment or the Constitution. They do not believe in freedom. I mean, there's been insane stories coming out of Florida Republicans for a while now. And it's not just like Florida man story. No, this is one of the last stories that I did about Florida is one Republican that is trying to ban the opposition party. And you combine that with, of course, all the attacks on LGBTQ plus Americans, African Americans, trans people. Florida is basically on the fast track to becoming Hungary, which, again, is run by a literal fascist, Viktor Orban, who has been speaking to American media figures and politicians, going to Republican events, and teaching people on the right, this is how you take over the country. Are we seeing that playbook happening right here? Very likely. Very likely. Orban also had been speaking to Tucker Carlson. And so look, overall, the right wing in Florida, and I think in many other places, but specifically in Florida right now, seems like they want fascism. And with DeSantis in power, they're able to enact this. They essentially do have one party rule. Part of fascism is restricting the information that people are able to receive and consume. What they're doing is political correctness. Again, going back to the ironic part, I thought they're supposed to hate political correctness. No. And by the way, I mean politically correct in the way that for the government, in this case, the DeSantis administration, wanting to make sure that any information comes out is politically correct, that looks good on his administration. That's exactly what this is. Punishing blogs. And then, by the way, we have labeled this blog, and we have found out that they get paid by this and this and this, which is connected to this, and this connected to this, this connected to that. And obviously, this must be fake news. Pushed by George Soros. You know that's what's going to happen. Again, this is incredibly dangerous. Now, I tell you that this does not pass constitutional muster, but I have this fear that that somehow this gets passed, gets challenged, lower court, maybe filled with members of the far right, end up kicking it up to the Supreme Court, who then says, oh, totally fine. Look, I don't know if it's going to get that far. Maybe I'm just slippery, doing this slippery slope fallacy. And I don't know. It is a fear that I have, which it would, again, destroy completely the freedom of the press. I hope that it won't get anywhere near that. But again, I do not trust the judiciary. And you can plainly see from efforts like these that there is a fascist movement in this country that is continuing to try to attain more and more power and curtail the rights of anyone who will challenge them. Okay. Oof. All right. They said it in their own words. That's what they want. Yeah, I've shown you video of that before too. All right. So let's move on. Let's have a little bit of fun with Nikki Haley. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley was at CPAC, and, well, you might have missed it because nobody really cared. Now, which is funny because the Republican presidential hopeful here gave a speech filled with red meat for the base. And with all the talking points, she still really wasn't even able to land it all that well. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that she had said.
But the socialist Democrats don't just want to spend our money. They want to take our freedom. They think they have a right to order us around, from light bulbs we use to the words that we speak. And now they want to ban gas-powered cars and gas stoves. When it comes to destroying our freedom, the socialist Democrats will never stop. Wokeness is a virus more dangerous than any pandemic, hands down.
That's just a sampling. But basically, you get the gist. A lot of socialist Democrats. Girl, I wish the Democrats were socialists. That would be great. But no, it's just
in Venezuela.
More of that. And of course, the whole, woke ideology.
The woker.
It's more dangerous than any pandemic. Really? Wait. How many people has wokeness killed? How many? I mean, I'm really curious. What's the body count on wokeness? We do have a body count on a pandemic. Let's take the most recent pandemic. 1.1-ish million Americans have died as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's do the math here. Wokeness, 0. COVID-19, about 1.1 million Americans. But no, it's wokeness. It's the wokeness that's the real problem. Oh, yes.
The wokers.
I mean,
Woke mob.
The woke mob's the worst thing in the world. The worst ever. Yes, you can't get worse than the mob, than the wokeness, the wokers. Jesus Christ. Now, she also talked about, as you heard, banning gas stoves, which is not a real thing. No, nobody is banning gas stoves.
You idiot.
It's just ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Total red meat. Now, she had also said that she'd stop giving money to countries that hate America, but then refused to name any. Oh. Okay, so what this is that it's basically she is showing that she's an incredibly establishment politician, that she has absolutely no substance and refuses to actually get into details. She refuses to actually criticize Donald Trump in any substantive way, has no substantive criticism. And by the way, there's no substance to Nikki Haley at all, to her campaign. Her main thing is, I'm not old. I mean, I love Donald Trump and I love Meg and I love all their ideas and they're so fantastic. I just think that we should be a little younger. That's all. We're still a little, politicians too old, and they should take mental competency tests. So look, she really, yeah, she got a couple of applause lines out of it. Some, I would say, polite applause. Okay. But really, it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of people that were very interested in what Nikki Haley was saying. And it was just a normal, standard conservative at this point. And it's insane that it's somehow now standard, those talking points. But you hear them everywhere. You hear them everywhere. And so it's not really a surprise to hear somebody talk like that anymore. That said, let me show you how many people were there during Nikki Haley's speech. Wow. Packed house. Just look at all those people. So many people there. So many people there. Wow. Now, multiple reporters noted that the hall at CPAC was only half full for Haley's speech. But that said, let's be fair, okay? Maybe she would have gotten more applause had more people actually gone to CPAC. I've already noted that as a result of, I would guess, Matt Schlapp's, the recent allegations against him, that a lot of people have not been really rushing to go to CPAC. But you could also talk about, getting back to the pandemic here, a lot of conservatives die. I mean, and that's not funny, and I'm not laughing at that, but it's the fact that this year's CPAC is not enforcing any sort of mask guidelines, because the last time they tried to do that, it was just chaos. Right-wingers did not enjoy that. So no mask guidelines, no vaccination guidelines, nothing like that. So it's basically a petri dish. And then you had a lot of right-wingers who refused to mask and vaccinate ended up dying of COVID. So, maybe that's one reason that there's not as many people going to CPAC, is that a lot of people who normally go to CPAC might not be around anymore. And that is, of course, very morbid for me to talk about. And, maybe that's, oh, Jeff, you can't say that. That's terrible things that you're saying. Why would you say such things? I'm not celebrating, anybody's, death. Just saying, like, that could be a reality of why people are not going to CPAC. I don't know. There could be a multitude of different things, different reasons why the attendance is pretty bad. That said, I do want to show you another video here. This is not Nikki Haley. This is another person who had spoken at CPAC. And, I want to show you the amount of applause she received.
And while I'm still committed to saying no money to Ukraine, and that country needs to find peace, not war, and while I will look at a camera and directly tell Zelensky, you better leave your hands off of our sons and daughters because they're not dying over there.
That felt a lot more lively and looked a lot more lively than Nikki Haley. And look, I noticed something interesting, right? If it's one thing that right-wing voters despise, it's going to war, which, by the way, is a sentiment that is shared among all sides of the electorate. The American people are not interested in going to war. We're not interested in personally involving our country in Ukraine. And so, by the way, that is a sentiment that is also shared by the Biden administration. No troops in Ukraine, no boots in the ground, that's good. Again, I don't think I've met anybody who supports Ukraine saying, oh yeah, we should definitely go involved, we should get it in the ground. No. No Democrat, by the way, has supported, that I know of, supported sending troops, and if they did, I would be massively against them. So, again, now, getting to what Green said, there's a false narrative, right, going on about of course, all things related to Ukraine. Zelensky wants you to bring your sons and daughters to die for Ukraine. No, that's not what's going on. No. Look, if you want to have a conversation about how much money we're sending to that country, to buy weapons, well, that's a conversation that I'd be willing to have. Okay. Because, yeah, I do think there is an issue with sending unlimited amounts of weapons of war to anywhere in the country and being the world's arms dealer, especially when at the same time our government's like, healthcare for everybody? How can we afford it? How are you going to pay for that? But like I said, we can have a conversation about that. That said, the reason that I wanted to show you that video is, again, the difference of excitement here in the crowd. Marjorie Greene versus Nikki Haley. Now, look, Marjorie Greene is a fake populist, whereas Nikki Haley is, again, that establishment politician. And she's been around for a very long time and has flip-flopped on so many issues that nobody trusts her. Add to the fact that she can't even come up with an argument as to why Republican voters should choose her over Donald Trump, which at this point is the favorite. So Nikki Haley, once again, reinforcing, in my belief, that she doesn't have a chance in hell at getting the nomination. Okay. Oh yeah, there are definitely a lot of Russian Putin sympathizers in the Republican Party as well. That's fair. That is definitely fair. But I didn't want to make the focus of that, segment to be Ukraine. Oh, anyway. Moving on. Oh, if I had no idea what they were saying, I think Greene was a far more compelling character than Haley based on presentation. Greene has a similar appeal to the Don. That is a fantastic point that I didn't even consider. You're right. I mean, optics and presentation are everything. And when you look at Marjorie Greene, or how about, in your words, when you mute it and watch her on the screen, she is a lot more energetic. Whereas, again, Nikki Haley, practiced politician. And again, if there's one thing that the American people really are not in favor of, are practiced politicians with handlers. And that's what Nikki Haley is. Okay. Let's do one more story. Thank you, by the way, for pointing that out. That is an excellent point. Residents of East Palestine, Ohio, had a chance to address one of the executives from Norfolk Southern. Now, that is the company, of course, behind the massive train derailment in that town that spread toxic chemicals all across the area. And by the way, the same company that had successfully lobbied the Trump administration to kill any railroad safety measures related to braking, ECS braking systems. That lack of regulation is attributable to the derailment of this particular train. So now, during a town forum on Thursday, residents who say that they are still suffering from illnesses had been able to confront one of the railroad's operators. In fact, this representative from the rail company was told by one attendee that it is, quote, not safe here. I'm begging you, by the grace of God, please get our people out of here. So now what he's talking about, this particular resident is saying, look, I do not feel safe. We do not feel safe to go back into our homes. We do not trust the testing that the EPA, that the government is doing. We do not trust the assurances of the company itself in saying that it is safe. We are suffering from health effects. Get us out of here. Help us relocate to somewhere that is safe, at least for the time being, until you clean up this area. Something. Some of them might not want to be, might not want to even return back to that home and just relocate completely. Now, are they going to? No, of course not. No, these companies end up never having to pay for the stuff that they end up destroying. They usually end up making the taxpayer do it. Now, let me give you more here. This is Daryl Wilson, Railroad's Assistant Vice President of Government Relations, who was at that forum, said that, quote, buying homes and moving people out of East Palestine hasn't been discussed. To which one person had responded, well, why not? Why not? Obviously, they didn't have an answer. And if they did, I mean, we probably wouldn't like it. And the answer is they don't care. And look, we also, part of the same answer is we also don't have a government that will force these companies to not only clean up the messes they cause on their own dime, by the way, but we also have a government that refuses to regulate these companies to prevent these accidents from happening in the first place. That said, the Associated Press notes that people are still scared of, whether the area will be safe for their children years from now, saying that they fear that dioxins, not yet detected, will end up causing long-term health impacts. And look, not only do the residents rightly not trust the company when they come in and they claim, oh, no, it's perfectly safe. You come back in. No, it's totally fine. They also don't trust the EPA. Now, look, I'm a lefty. I want an EPA. I want an EPA that's strong. I want an EPA that's effective. We do not have an EPA that is either of those things. Now, recently, according to their initial testing, they have suggested that there's only a low chance that any dioxins were released from the derailment. But here's the thing. The EPA has been wrong before. The EPA has been defunded. Industry has a huge impact on government agencies due to massive amounts of lobbying. The same kind of lobbying that made it so that the train companies were deregulated in the first place. And so, look, another example of the EPA not being effective was in Flint, Michigan. I mean, we all remember residents of Flint were exposed to lead, leading to lead poisoning, health impacts for an entire, group of people for their entire lives. It does not go away. Now, in that case, we have documented that the EPA had failed to act and had initially said, oh, no, don't worry. The water's totally safe. You can drink it. It's fine. But of course, it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe. And furthermore, you also had emails from the EPA, this is years ago that these were released, that showed that the organization, or the agency was skeptical of the claims made by Flint residents who were suffering, who were telling everyone, doing these kinds of forums, talking to officials, saying, my God, something is wrong with our water. Why won't you listen to us? We are telling you there is something up with our water. It is not right. It is not safe. You need to fix it. Well, the EPA, for their part, along with the Snyder government, it was the governor of Michigan at the time, were saying, oh, no, they're just trying to get more federal money. That's all they're trying to do. These people. They just want more money. Let me give you the email here. This is from Debbie Baltazar, the Water Division branch chief for the EPA's Region 5, which included Michigan. Quote, I'm not so sure Flint is the community we want to go out on a limb for. Now, why would that be? Why would that be? Now you say, oh, well, the mismanagement of the money. Of course, it's mismanagement. It's mismanagement. I think we know the other reason. Why are they always assumed to mismanage the money? Could it have something to do with people that live there? In fact, she continued by saying, quote, at least without a better understanding of where all that money went. Oh, you see, they wasted the money. They wasted the money. You know how they are. They're just trying to get more money. No, they had a real problem. They had a real problem. And it took years, and it's still ongoing for them to clean up the mess that has happened in Flint. There is still more work that needs to be done. So getting back to this point, I do not trust the EPA. And neither do the people in East Palestine. Of course they distrust the government because they know there is corruption in the government due to lobbying, corporate lobbying that allows these companies to buy off our politicians. Now, getting back to this town forum, the Associated Press noted that some residents, of course, booed, laughed, and yelled, don't lie to us, when an EPA regional administrator named Deborah Shore reiterated that tests say that, oh, don't worry, the village is safe, totally safe. Wilson, getting back to him, the train company representative from Norfolk Southern, got worse treatment when he told residents that they feel the company feels horrible about what happened. From the deepest depths of our hearts in Norfolk Southern, we are so sorry. We feel terrible about our train being derailed and about what's going on with you as a result of our incredibly lax safety measures. Look, this company did not feel horrible when they were, getting dividends from the billions that they did in stock buybacks. Didn't feel horrible then, knowing that they were skirting safety rules. They didn't feel horrible when they offered the residents originally a whopping $5 for their troubles. And they really didn't feel horrible because less than a week after the week of the derailment, Norfolk Southern immediately reopened the tracks without cleaning up or removing any of the contaminated soil under those tracks, which prompted one of the residents to yell, "You should have done it right the first time," because they then had announced that they were going to, okay, fine, we'll go back and we'll start cleaning things up, and we should be done by the end of April. But let's talk about why they didn't do it right the first time. Oh, because it would cost them money. Look, they came up with a revolutionary ECS brake system and then decided, it's too expensive, I'm not going to use it. They didn't update their Civil War era technology despite touting ECS technology as the next greatest, best, great thing. Latest and greatest, everybody. Look at this technology that we're not going to use because, that'll cost us money. We're not going to do that. Nope. Again, they don't want to do any safety reforms. They and other members of the, these railroad lobbying groups, special interest groups made up of executives in these companies that have gotten together have opposed safety reforms, any sort of safety reforms. In fact, these railroads want to wait until after the NTSB completes its investigation. How long will that take? About a year or more. They don't want to do anything or make any significant changes to their operations until then. Until then. They don't care. They don't care. It's all about greed. It's all about corporate greed. Taking as much money as possible for themselves, stuffing it in their pockets, and not taking any sort of accountability or action that will be significant. Look, it'd be a wild day if I was in charge, if I had any kind of power. Let me tell you. I'd pass regulation. Some goddamn regulation. Immediately. ECS break rules. And they can cry and scream all they want. Oh, overregulation, you're so unfair. No. F off. We're going to do some regulation because obviously you guys are not going to regulate yourselves. Self-regulation is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Another thing that I would want to do is to hold Norfolk Southern accountable for this accident, including paying all the damages. All the damages. Temporary, at least temporary housing for everyone in that town. Hiring third-party testers not affiliated with the company at all to come and test the water there and the soil. To pay for the health care for the people that are suffering health impacts for the rest of their lives. And most importantly, again, upgrade their braking systems, upgrade their safety, and hire more people to run the trains. Look, the rail unions have been pointing this out for a very long time. There's a problem. Their scheduling system has led to massive cutbacks on trains, massive cutbacks on staff and safety. One of our viewers points out a story that I was going to do today. Betty Schooley says, I read a woman who works in the trains that her manager told her not to check any brakes unless she saw dripping oil coming off the brakes or reducing rail cars to be inspected. Yes, that is a Guardian report. I read that, and it's infuriating. It's infuriating. And this is, by the way, is a company, or at least the Guardian has obtained leaked audio where that manager in one of the largest rail companies was explaining that, oh, you're actually doing your job too well. You're tagging too many of our train cars for repair, and that slows us down. And when we're slowed down, we don't make as much money because corporate will call us and they'll yell at management. And as management, I don't want to get yelled at. So just stop checking the trains. Specifically, stop checking the wheel bearings, which, again, according to the preliminary NTSB report, this was a wheel bearing malfunction where it caught on fire. But don't check the wheel bearings. That'll slow us down. That same employee, ex-employee, goes into, how she wasn't properly trained in order to actually do maintenance to fix these trains, to do anything. And again, the bare minimum, other than the bare minimum. All in order to generate more profits for the executives and the shareholders in the company. That's it. That's it. Again, getting back to the point where all of this is a result of corporate greed, which has led to deregulation, and deregulation leads to destruction. That's the moral of this story. Okay. That's all the time I've got. All right. Jeez. Yeah, I know. Sorry about the leading, or ending the week, and with such horrifying news, but it is what it is. Unfortunately. Let's see. Elwell says, I'm sorry, gifted 5 Waldorf Nation memberships. Appreciate that. Thank you, Elwell. Jonathan Leiter, also thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. Koru, thank you for the very kind $2. Jonathan Leiter, also with the very kind $4. 2 different messages. Let's see. Drag Queens Matter. Yeah. And didn't they have to sign a waiver to attend CPAC? Also, yeah, they did. Which I'm sure some people didn't want to sign that waiver. And also, Gabby Mathis, thank you for gifting a Waldorf Nation membership. Virginia Thomas, aka Ice Dragon, says, the other thing with Flint is that they cut corners because those people don't like to pay their bills. And in the end, it costs them more to clean it up. I'm kind of confused about who you mean, for who you're referring to for those people who don't want to pay their bills. I remember reading a story about how after the Flint, water was found to have been filled with lead, that, yeah, people didn't want to pay their water bill because they'd be paying for poison water. Well, in that case, I wouldn't pay my water bill. I'm not going to pay for poison. No, screw that. So I'm not sure what you mean on that. Maybe you could clarify. And Jonathan Leiter says, bummer, end of week gift. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Mighty Darno, thank you for the very kind $2. Take care and have a decent weekend. Thank you. Let's see. How many trains blew up in the last years without anyone in the media caring about it because there was no live footage? Hey, that is a good that's a good question. That's a fair question. That's a good point. Don't forget about Jackson, Mississippi. Lisa, also another great point. You are correct. Jackson, Mississippi also did not have, clean water. Virginia Thomas clarified and said that's why they switched water. Oh, yeah, that's... Look, I've heard a bunch of different excuses as to why they ended up switching water sources. At the end of the day, yeah, you're right. They didn't... the government there did not want to pay for the clean water. They thought they could save money by switching over to the Flint River water source. And, yeah... it costs more money in the end. But I also think that, had they not been caught, had this not become a big story in media, they would have ignored it. They would have ignored it and allowed people to continue to get poisoned and to suffer. So she meant maybe she meant the government and not paying to upkeep the infrastructure. That's another good point. Okay, so with that, and by the way, you don't have to keep sending a super chat to when I'm asking you a question. No, I do really appreciate it. I'm just kind of curious what you had meant, who you were referring to. That's all. I just wanted to be clear. You know how it is. Oh, and it may be, again, it's just one of those days where I am not up to 100% on all my stuff. So maybe I'm misinterpreting or misunderstanding of what you were trying to say. And if so, I do apologize. Again, because it is one of those days. All right, so with that, Governor Rick Snyder was not held accountable for the Flint debacle. Yes, that is also very, very true. And absolutely horrific. And once again, it goes back to the point that I made in the first segment, where nobody in power ever gets held accountable. Ever. And that's why I have, I guess, very little hope for these investigations. The investigations into Trump, and why also I believe all these investigations from the Republicans are nothing more than just theater. So who gets the bill for the Trump water? You know he didn't do it out of the kindness of his heart. He was there for a photo op. Very likely it'll be from some of the money that his donors give him. Donald Trump never spends any of his own money. He didn't have any. He basically subsists off the grift and taking everyone else's money that they're stupid enough to give him. I mean, Donald Trump spending his own money.
Can't let that happen.
No. I believe in Jack Smith. It's not Jack Smith that I don't believe in. It's Merrick Garland, and it's also Republicans. So I just don't believe in the system either, where it is always preferential to those who have power and influence. Okay. All right, that's it. Let's Twitch viewers. Let's oh, I didn't even have the Twitch window up. Even though I can see Twitch comments. I just didn't have the window up. All right. So let's see. Do a raid here. Oh, very rare Rob Rousseau raid. Awesome. Everybody check that out on Twitch. Everyone else, again, thank you so much for the very kind super chats and comments, and for staying with me. Like and share the stream if you haven't already, and please have a great weekend. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. Told you, one of them days.
There's insanity in the control room. Who's got a hammer? Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Sexual anarchy. Resurrection is about the people. Yes!
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
USA, USA, USA.